guys, so today I'm going to be doing a video on how to resolve conflicts within relationships, any relationships, with hard aspects to Moon, Mercury, Pluto, and Mars as well. So conflict or confrontation is going to come up at some point within a relationship. No relationship is 100% compatible, so we just love the people that we're with, even though we know that they're not 100% compatible for us. And if we want a long-term and loving relationship, we have to come to terms with this or sort of exercise this at some point. So life actually depends on opposing forces or opposing functions of perception. So if you think about light and dark, night and day, up and down, forward and backward, sun and moon, all of these oppositions. And so in relationships, represented by Venus or Aphrodite with her mirror, is to have our opposite reflected back to us so we can learn and so we can grow and balance and bring awareness to that part of ourselves. And we see this play out in the opposition aspect within synastry and astrology, where oppositions cannot be separated because they are innately interconnected and work together. And that's where we find peace. So when we meet our equal and opposite, we need to compromise to find that point of peace, which sounds very Libran, doesn't it? So I've put together a few top of the combative aspects that you can have in synastry to help people with this added difficulty in relationships, because relationships already require us to go through so much. And to overcome any hurdles in relationships, it really takes love, acceptance, patience and persistence. So when we really embody these qualities, we can take control of our lives and our relationships and find fulfillment within them. And that's the paradox really of accepting and letting go of what we can't control to feel the most connected and in control and content. And this is sounding very Plutonian themed, which actually brings us to our first aspect, which is Pluto in hard aspect to Mars. So that could be square, opposition, even the semisquare as well. This aspect does really require quite a level of consciousness and being able to be very objective because these are not very conscious planets. Mars is very instinctive and acts before thinking and wants to defend his right to be right and be an individual and be autonomous. And Pluto is the primal subconscious desire of power and control. And you really don't see Pluto coming. It's not until at least 6 months, maybe even a couple of years, until you really start to see Pluto play out in synastry, the aspects in the relationship. You can definitely detect it earlier, but you need to be very observant because Pluto is very subtle. It doesn't like to be detected. He wears a helmet of invisibility when he comes to the upper world from the underworld. So he is very subtle and can manipulate energy very well, whether that's good or bad. Manipulation isn't always bad. Sometimes we need to subtly sway a person with manipulation if they're thinking negative or for their own good. But that is really where the slippery slope is with Pluto, where we start to use that control, that power of control for other means that aren't always for the best of the person, and even if it is, it's still taking that power away from that person. So obviously when you have an argument, this is a very explosive aspect. It's very hard to be objective and to have that compassion in the moment when this energy comes head to head. So these two are about power and domination and winning. So it's really sometimes better with this aspect to say, okay, this conversation has gone a little bit too heated. We're not saying things that are constructive. We need to walk away. Let's revisit this later. Let's come back in an hour. And then you can come back and talk constructively in a constructive way, because all of the heat has been dispelled. You need to sort of cool off a little bit before you come back and talk it out. And because the Pluto person does work more subtly, it doesn't mean that it's not at fault for creating an argument as well. It just means that it was more subtle and undetected about it, because they can kind of prod and provoke and sort of simmer with this energy that creates an energy more so than an actual action. Like Mars would be the reaction to that energy. So the Mars person looks like they're the ones that have the problem, they're the ones reacting, but Pluto has this subtle energetic manipulation that they're sort of simmering under the surface. This could happen long before even the Pluto person is aware of it. They take quite a while to sort of sit on their feelings and to really understand how they feel. It takes time for them to sit and mull it over. So what Mars can learn to do is really pick up on the Pluto person's, subtle cues before it gets too bad. So the facial expressions, the body language, the tone of voice, and to decipher if they're upset about something and what they might be upset about. And the Pluto person generally, depending on their moon sign, they may need space to just work out their emotions. They may need to talk it out if they've got a Libra moon. So it really depends on the moon sign as to how they should best deal with their emotions. But if you can pick it up early enough that they are provoking and they're having this sort of simmering kind of energy, this bubbling underneath the surface, then you look to their moon sign to how to resolve their emotional upset, whatever's upsetting them. And Pluto does need to be careful if they've got a lot of Scorpio in their chart. Yes, they will need more time to, like I said before, just work out and mull over their emotions and how they think and feel about something. But if they do leave it too long, they have this tendency of going into a negative spiral. So they need to have their space, but not too long and dwell too long on something. It's a really good idea to give yourself a time frame in which you can process information. And Pluto also needs to be careful. I'm talking a lot about Pluto. I'm very aware of this energy. That's all. Not becoming too much of a victim in that stance, because, and this is a trait of all the water signs as well, they feel so much, but they play a little bit too much into that emotion. If they are thinking too much about it, if they play too much into it, or they identify too much with that emotion, then they're going to become it. And they need to step back, take an objective view, and take their responsibility for it as well, even though it's more subtle than Mars's stance. And these two have so much raw passion. It's amazing. So if you can channel this energy, this heat into something constructive, and try the things that I've just said before, and even move this energy into the realm of physical intimacy, it can be a real cathartic release and very healing for you both if you use that energy in that way as well. It's about learning to let your fire burn together, but not burning the house down as well. That's the weakness of these two signs, is to utterly destroy everything. So they need to be careful. So because Mars is sexual desire and Pluto rules over compulsion, together they both rule over time as well. So not chronological time like Saturn, it's time as change. And this is a discovery that my amazing teacher and mentor, Chrissy Phillip, helped me learn. So Mars wants to make things happen and happen now. And that's why the Mars or male archetype is always depicted as being very impatient and headstrong, because it is that forward-moving, dynamic energy which comes after Pluto, which is death and decay. So that's why together they rule over time, the start, stop, death and rebirth. So with this aspect, it's not about changing one another. It's about using your impulsive and creative spark for change and to make things happen, or to start a project together. So their peace point is positive change. So you can also do dance classes or martial arts classes together, or anything where you're using your energy constructively together. You're working towards something together and you're joining forces in that way. So just remember, you are a partnership. You're on the same team. You don't need to defend yourself against one another. You don't need to win against your partner. And even if you do feel like that, a healthy game of tennis could be the answer. Okay, so now we're going on to hard aspects between the Pluto and Moon. So again, this could be opposition square or semisquare. Even the inconjunct can be quite challenging. So we just spoke a lot about Pluto and how that operates. So let's just look to the Moon for now. The lovely, caring and sensitive Moon finds the very sultry and seductive Pluto very powerful and domineering even. It's a very potent energy in their lives. And they find that energy very alluring, even though they know it's a little bit dangerous. They feel very vulnerable up against it. And the Moon shakes with sort of intense depth of feeling for the Pluto person. And there's this psychic sort of unearthly connection between the two as well. And it will grow over time as Pluto gradually and slowly draws the Moon person in to more and more vulnerability, but also through trust. It will happen through trust and through experience and over time. And so much so that the Moon person will feel quite bound by or bound to the Pluto person. And this is very much Hades and Persephone kind of energy. So the Moon person may feel a bit captured, but it also resonates with this level of depth of feeling. And it doesn't want to leave that. It doesn't want to leave that such deep intuitive bond they have. The Moon really wants to be held and nurtured and comforted by the Pluto person. They feel that they can rest in the all powerful and consuming Pluto. But the problems come when Pluto abuses its power over the moon. They can easily manipulate the feelings of the moon person and even threaten them with leaving when it knows the moon is bound by him or to him. And dependency issues can result from these hard aspects from either person, actually. It just happens in a slightly different way. What can happen is because the Pluto and the moon trigger each other both so deeply, this is where fights can arise because of this energy that's being brought up. It's very triggering. It's very deep and profoundly felt. So the moon really needs to set its boundaries in the relationship and solidify its autonomy in the relationship. For both of you, it would be healthy to go out and do your own things, your hobbies, see your own friends, have your own you time, to have that space for just you. So the Pluto person can't take the moon's vulnerability for granted as well, and it has to be very careful with that power that it now has. Just appreciate and love her for who she is, for how she is, for what she already does. Instead of demanding more, Pluto can get very hungry for power and domination and to draw things out of people that it kind of constantly always needs more. And it needs to learn to let go and appreciate that opposite Taurian energy of appreciating what you already have. Because that is what partners are there for in your life. They're not there for you to get something from. Your partner is there to love and appreciate for who they are. And Pluto can also channel this energy into tasks that demand a lot of attention and focus. So these two really will have the most profound feelings for one another, and they need to really respect and cherish that. And their peace point is depth of feeling. So that is where they can combine even the hardest aspects to create peace. I'd like to reiterate again, don't forget about the positive aspects that you have in synastry. Over time, in long-term relationships especially, we do tend to forget about, the Sun-Venus conjunction, the Mars-Moon sextile, because we get so caught up on the hard aspects because they're what are the most difficult. They take so much of our attention. It's so much easier to slip into what's wrong and complain. We get into habits of doing that. So create new habits. Your moon sign will help you with this. What is it? It takes 20 something days to create a new habit. So create positive habits. Try and do things in your marriage that you keep trying for at least a month to implement, whether it's like just checking in with the relationship every week, making sure you each understand where you stand, how you're feeling in the relationship, how you can improve it. Going on date nights, going for walks together, talking about your day, just things like that, things to keep the relationship going, putting that effort in. And also these relationship check-ins, when we check in with our partner, it creates less arguments because things get brought up in a way that it's premature. So it's you talk it out before it becomes anything bad or can create resentment. So look into your positive aspects, remind yourself of them. Maybe you're great at listening and you're talking to your partner and you actually have great communication, or maybe you have the same hobbies, or maybe you have the same love language, or you like the same food. There'll be something. So remember that commonality, work on it, make it a focal point of your relationship again. And remember, your partner is already fulfilling these amazing roles in your life already. So this helps us cultivate obviously a lot of gratitude for our partners, and having gratitude is the highest vibration above love. So if we can have gratitude for our partners, we can create a much more harmonious environment to be with them, be around them, and keep your self-worth and your ambition going within your own life as well. Encourage that in your partner's life. And I think that creates a good recipe for a great life. Let me know if you have any of these aspects, how it's working or not working for you, and leave a like or comment, and I'll see you soon.